Hello, this is Dr. Kavian Milani for Virginia Medical Updates. In the previous section, we did talk about obesity, and in this session, I do want to address the issue of obesity, why it's more prevalent in society today, and some ways in which we can conceptualize and understand the rising epidemic of obesity. As you know, as we all know, obesity leads to hypertension, hypercholesterolemia, it leads to renal disease, it leads to liver problems, and it does lead to a variety of cancers. In general, it is very important for physicians and for the patients and for all parties that are interested to begin to conceptualize this issue of obesity along the spectrum of other medical problems. The issue is not really losing weight or to just basically look good. The issue is that the processes of obesity, the process of weight gain, of excess weight, does actually lead to significant medical problems. And we, in this program, want to bring this awareness to the community. And I want to be able to engage in a dialogue with the community on how to tackle the issues of obesity and weight gain. If a person wants to lose something akin to 10 pounds, for example, we have to keep in mind that every 1 pound that we want to shave off, that we want to get rid of, every 1 pound is equivalent of 3,500 calories of energy that we must either not consume or we must burn. Well, for every 1 mile that one jogs or runs, one can only burn about 100 calories. So it stands to reason that to burn 1 pound, one has to jog something akin to 35 miles. And that is a significant amount of calories that one can burn, but at a very, very difficult rate. So it is important to notice that any weight loss program has to be balanced between losing calories and increasing muscle mass and burning fat, but also in terms of reducing the intake of calories. A number of programs have been very successful. A number of commercial programs have been very successful. A number of fad diets have been very successful. And in general, any of these programs, if maintained and if accompanied by adequate hydration and by adequate exercise, can lead to sustained, successful weight loss. But the difficulty is this, is that as one loses 10 pounds of weight, the hormones in the body begin to move to produce homeostasis, and the two hormones that I'm thinking about are leptin and ghrelin. And these hormones, as their levels begin to go up, they begin to slow down metabolism, they begin to actually increase our requirement for eating, and they force us to become ravenous and eat more and more. As this happens, then weight loss becomes much more difficult to maintain. And so a number of tools are available for physicians to use to manage this surge in ghrelin and this increasing in appetite. In addition to the medical and pharmacological management, normal substances that are available, like green tea, like lightly brewed coffee, like a variety of peppers, are available to enhance metabolism. And as they enhance metabolism and increase the metabolic rate, it becomes easier for the body to actually burn some of these calories off. The CDC now recommends, and it's important, that if one wants to engage in intense physical activity, that a total of 75 minutes per week is used. And that then has to be accompanied with some activity like in the form of jogging or running or singles tennis, which is intense, and then weightlifting and weights to be added to it. But for moderate exercise, then, which burns at a lower rate, then the CDC recommends a total of 150 minutes per week. And again, this is like doubles tennis or it is fast-paced walking, during which one can burn calories. So at a rate of 150 per week, then that's about 30 minutes, 5 days a week. And my experience has shown that if someone is actually walking at a fast pace for 30 minutes, 5 days a week, that they will lose weight and will bring their weight together and increase their body mass in an appropriate way. In the next program, I do want to address the issue of prediabetes and hypertension and how significant weight loss can contribute to preventing these disease states. Thank you for your participation with us. We look forward to hearing from you at 703-383-4VFM or on our Facebook page or through Virginia Medical Updates at gmail.com. Thank you.
Welcome to Virginia Medical Updates. My name is Alejandra Gonsalves, and I'm happy to have here with us today Dr. Majid Fotuhi. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Dr. Fotuhi is a Harvard and Johns Hopkins trained neurologist and neuroscientist. He's widely regarded in the field of memory, aging, and increasing brain vitality in late life. He has numerous publications with 25 years of teaching experience, clinical work, and neuroscience research. He is currently the medical director of NeuroGrow Brain Fitness Center, the chief medical officer at NeuroCore Brain Performance Centers, and affiliate staff at Johns Hopkins. It's such an honor to have you here with us. Thank you again for being here.
It's my pleasure.
Today we're going to be discussing 6 ways that your brain can shrink. So obviously a very important topic. We don't want this to happen to us. I know that some of us may know that Alzheimer's causes our brain to shrink. So talk to us about these 6 ways that our brain can shrink.
Sure. Again, thank you very much for having me on your show. Most people think of Alzheimer's when it comes to aging and memory loss. They don't realize that there are so many things within their reach that can affect their brain and that they can either shrink their brain or grow their brain.
Okay.
So I think it's important for people to understand and appreciate that their lifestyle choices can have an impact on their brain size and function at any age. And when it accumulates over decades, it can either make your brain strong and big or frail and shrink.
That's great. So it's something that we have control over.
That's right.
Okay.
So let me teach you a little bit about the brain to get started. I brought with me a model of the brain. Cortex and hippocampus happen to be the parts of the brain that have the highest degree of malleability.
Okay.
They change the most, and especially the hippocampus. And it's the hippocampus that's important for you to learn new names, learn new things, memorize what you do for your life, and so forth.
Okay.
So I'm going to tell you 6 things you could do to shrink your brain. Not that you should do it. You should avoid doing these things.
Okay.
Okay?
Things we don't want to do.
Things you don't want to do.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. So what's the
first
one?
thing you could do to damage your brain is to have insomnia.
Okay.
It turns out that if you sleep fewer than 6 hours a night, you increase your risk for stroke.
Okay.
But also, you increase the possibility of shrinking your brain because your brain needs oxygen and your brain needs to be healthy when you sleep. When you don't get adequate amount of sleep, your brain blood flow is affected, the cortisol, which is the stress hormone, goes up. Cortisol is toxic to the brain, and the combination of these make your brain smaller, smaller, and smaller. The second way you can shrink your brain is to have sleep apnea.
Okay.
Sleep apnea is a condition in which people snore during the night.
Mm-hmm.
They wake up with their own snoring, and then during the day they're tired.
Okay.
They have a hard time staying awake in the afternoon. They doze off easily. during conversations or meetings or watching a movie and so forth.
So is that's causing them not to have a full night's of rest? The sleep apnea is causing them to wake up and they can't properly rest.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
So if you have sleep apnea, your brain is constantly starving for oxygen. When you wake up with your own snoring, it's like you've been drowned and your brain is waking up.
Okay, right.
And a lot of people joke about it as if it's funny that somebody snores and somebody doesn't. And it's the inconvenience of snoring that people talk about. What they don't know is that the snoring and the sleep apnea shrinks by the cortex and the hippocampus by as much as 18%. Imagine this beautiful cortex, which makes you who you are, being 20% smaller.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't know that they have sleep apnea, which is sad. So I strongly recommend my patients to see a doctor if they snore at night, if they wake up in the morning and feel tired.
Okay.
And the way sleep apnea increases brain shrinkage is by reducing the amount of oxygen to the brain.
Okay.
And
so of course that would make a difference with what's happening.
You know, a third of your brain is made up of blood vessels. So anything that affects blood flow to your brain can have a huge performance on the health of your brain, on the vitality of your brain.
Okay.
So you need to make sure you have good blood flow to your brain, and insomnia can affect it, and sleep apnea can affect it.
Okay.
So this is the first bucket.
Okay.
Sleep issues.
So spouses or family members should obviously, instead of saying you're snoring, you're being too loud, they need to say, let's go visit the doctor. There's a problem here, and something that can be avoided so that later on you're not, seeing these effects on your brain.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it's not just the inconvenience of snoring that's a problem, it's the fact that people's brain is shrinking. And sleep apnea also increases the risk of stroke and also increases the risk of heart attacks.
Right.
Something about sleep apnea makes your blood more coagulable. Your blood becomes more sticky.
Okay.
So you're more likely to have strokes or heart attacks. In fact, in one study, researchers looked at people who were in a stroke unit, people who have had a stroke, and they did a survey, did a study, and they did an actual sleep study to find out what percentage of them had sleep apnea. They found out that 90% had sleep
Wow.
apnea.
Wow. So yes, it definitely makes a difference. Okay. So we're going to have to say, instead of saying stop snoring, we're going to say stop shrinking your brain, go see the doctor.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the
all right.
good thing about both of those two conditions, insomnia and sleep apnea, is that they are treatable.
Okay. So now we've discussed two of the ways that your brain can shrink. So sleep apnea or insomnia. And now for the rest.
All right. Number 3 and number 4 are related. One is hypertension and one is obesity.
Okay.
The higher your blood pressure is for a long period of time, the smaller your brain gets. In fact, several studies have looked at people who have uncontrolled hypertension, and they found that they have a 2 to 3-fold increase risk of Alzheimer's disease because the blood pressure can literally shrink your brain. Again, a third of your brain is made of blood vessels, so anything that affects the blood flow can
affect your
have a
brain as well.
negative impact on your brain.
Okay.
And number 4 is the obesity. I want to tell you something you wouldn't believe.
Okay.
The bigger your belly, the smaller your hippocampus gets.
Okay. Wow.
So
it's linked as well.
It is incredible what a tight relationship there is between the size of the belly and the size of the hippocampus. And it's mostly the belly fat that's an issue, not so much the fat around your buttock area.
Okay.
There's something about the belly fat that's toxic to the brain.
Okay.
And for example, people who have diabetes are at increased risk for developing Alzheimer's disease and having a smaller brain because they often have bigger bellies.
Okay. Yes. I know sometimes it's known as the tire, the extra tire weight that's around the belly. That's what you have to have.
They call it the love handle. There's nothing
Okay.
lovely about it.
Right. Right. Okay.
Okay. Now, the last 2 items on the list are not related. We talk about insomnia, sleep apnea, hypertension, and obesity. Next thing on the list is stress and anxiety.
Okay.
In fact, this is one of the worst things for your brain. When you're stressed out, the levels of cortisol, which is the stress hormone, go up in your blood. And this hormone is very toxic to your hippocampus. So the higher your stress level, the smaller your hippocampus gets. So people who worry about developing Alzheimer's disease later in life are actually putting themselves at increased risk for developing it, because the stress shrinks the hippocampus.
It's causing the shrinkage. Okay.
The same way with depression, the longer period of time a person has been depressed, the smaller hippocampus gets.
And this is something that they're going to be seeing over time.
That's right.
Later on.
All of these things are cumulative. So if you've had stress for 2 years of your life because of something bad happened, and then the rest you've been doing fine, it's okay. But if you have a lifestyle in which you're stressed every day for everything, whether you're in traffic or have a fight with your spouse, or whether you don't get along with your coworkers, that kind of daily stress shrivels your brain.
Okay.
The last one on the list is concussion. Traumatic brain injury can literally jolt the brain and tear the connections from one side of the brain to the other side of the brain.
Okay.
And so football players who've had multiple concussions have a smaller brain, and they have 3-fold increased risk of Alzheimer's disease.
And this, of course, also is going to shrink the hippocampus as well.
Yes.
Okay.
So whichever you hit your brain is the hippocampus that shrinks.
Okay.
Whether it's you're hit here, or the back, hippocampus is very fragile. And so when a person is hit, the brain is shaken, and it hits the front of the skull and the back of the skull, and the hippocampus inside moves,
It
and that
causes a
causes
trauma as well.
trauma. And
Okay.
also causes trauma to the connections from hippocampus to the rest of the brain. And when those connections are torn, hippocampus does not have its usual input and output, and that too causes the brain to shrink and a person to become demented later in life.
Okay.
So the 6 things we talked about
Yes,
are
let's go over them finally.
insomnia.
Yes. Okay.
The worse the insomnia, the more the shrinkage there is.
Yes.
Second is sleep apnea. People who snore at night are shrinking your brain every night, one night at a time. Hypertension, high blood pressure is really bad. So if somebody has high cholesterol and has a bad diet that worsens their hypertension, they are literally shrinking their brain.
Okay.
And then obesity is important. And so if you have a big, huge belly, your hippocampus shrinks by a lot. But if you're just overweight without being obese, that is bad for the brain as well.
Okay. Which is linked to diabetes.
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay. And then number 5 on the list is anxiety and depression issues.
Okay.
And the worse they are, the more hippocampus shrinks. And lastly is concussion and traumatic brain injury.
Okay.
They all affect hippocampus more so than other parts of the brain, and they all increase your risk of developing Alzheimer's disease later in life because they shrink the cortex and hippocampus.
Okay, great. So these are all things that we're going to try to avoid and make sure that we're not doing in our lives so that we're not causing our brains to shrink. So we want to thank you, Dr. Fotuhi, for being with us today. We have learned a lot today, and we hope to see you again here at Virginia Medical Updates.
Hello, I'm Dr. Kavian Milani for Virginia Medical Updates. It turns out that one of the most interesting books that was published in last year is a book by Professor Amy Cuddy of Harvard Business School called Presence. In this book, she presents landmark, amazing scholarship in which she presents, I think for the first time, how different poses and postures affect our minute to minute, hour to hour kind of alertness, peace, and calm. Usually, people have tried to meditate or do yoga to achieve long-term wellness. Amy Cuddy has almost revolutionized this way of thinking. She has discovered and has presented, I believe for the first time, a number of poses that one can use throughout the day to bring more focus, more calm, and relieve a fair amount of stress. For example, It was studied and published in the Journal of Human Anatomy and Physiology in 2004 that a certain pose from yoga, known as the cobra, can increase testosterone by 16% and lower cortisol by about 20%, creating a much more present, much more active, and much more calm and composed mindset. Well, she has taken that particular study and knowledge and has created a number of poses. And these 5 poses that she presents are poses that increase testosterone, increase confidence, decrease cortisol, and decrease stress. And imagine that throughout the course of a day, these 3-minute poses can do what medication may have to do for someone. I mean, a physician may have to prescribe, for example, a medication like alprazolam or Xanax or Valium to calm people down. These poses by themselves actually do that. So people can actually take this medication and be a lot more present, a lot more calm, a lot more composed, and a lot more creative. And this important discovery goes back to Professor Amy Cuddy of Harvard Business School, who's a professor of social psychology at that institution. In general, cortisol is a hormone of stress. And testosterone does cause a degree of calm and composition. And if these poses, as she has argued and has proven scientifically, increase testosterone and lower cortisol, they create a much more calm, composed environment. People do better under stress. People do better in job interviews. People do better while taking examinations. And in general, people are much more creative and resourceful. So I highly recommend Amy Cuddy's very readable and fun book. Most books are either fun or meaningful. This book is both fun and is meaningful and has a lot to say. And I think that this book will also, along with the other books that I've introduced elsewhere, produce a new way of thinking and a new paradigm of thinking about psychological welfare and about being present and at the moment. She also does focus on yoga. She does focus on meditation. She does focus on exercise. But the most important discovery she presents is that these small poses, like little nudges throughout the day, can basically create a lot more space for well-being and for creative thinking. I highly recommend this book, and I'm sure you will enjoy it. Thank you.
Welcome to Virginia Medical Updates. I'm Dante Davis, and this is our 3rd fitness session. Today, we're focusing on a series of lunges, forward, side, and back, all in one workout. So we want to focus first on going forward, side lunge, back lunge, and then straight into the other leg, forward, side lunge, and back lunge. We will do 3 sets of 8 for that lunge workout. Go. Forward, side, back. Left leg, forward, side, back. A great way to build hamstrings, quads, and glutes. And we're gonna keep burning those out and repping those things out for 3 sets of 5 and push yourself to the max. I really want you guys to push yourself. Now, we're doing resisted side push-ups. Side, side, push-up. The resistance band really works your shoulders. Make you keep them stable and build up your stability muscles. We have a little bit more for the upper body. We're gonna focus now, what we haven't really done so far, on the biceps. Same power system band. We're gonna wrap this here around your foot, one end. And we're gonna have your arm inside of your leg. We're gonna work on both arms. 3 sets of 15 curls. Here we go. Slightly just curl, as so, to tone that upper body. And we wanna switch and go left leg. Ooh, it's burning now. 15. So 3 sets of 15. Today's core is mainly focusing on stability. So all stability in your core here, and then we'll do a couple sit-ups in between. It's a superset. So a superset is doing one exercise and right after doing another exercise. Now we want to start off with just a simple core stability. Feet off the ground, hands to the side, and we're going to hold it for 10 seconds. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Make sure you keep the feet off the ground and the core tight. Hold it, hold it. Good job. Right into 5 sit-ups. Here we go. Feet on the floor. 5 sit-ups. Up, 1. Up, 2. Up, 3. Come on. Up, 4. Last one. Up, 5. Good job, good job. Let's keep working. We're almost there. Right back into another stability core. We're going to have the same thing, feet off the ground. We're going to have our arms going up as a V while our feet are off the ground. Here we go for 10 reps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good job. Here we go. Right into it. 5 sit-ups. 5 sit-ups. 1, 2, 3. Keep the core tight. 4, 5. Good job. Good job. Next stability movement. We're going to reach over and stretch each side. And make sure you feel that stretch right here and right there, all in your lats. Feet off the ground. Here we go, we're going for 10. Reach, stretch, 1. Stretch, 2. 3. There you go, all the way over. 4. 5. Keep it going. 6. Stretch, 7. 8. 2 more. 9. Stretch it. 10. Good job. Here we go, right into the sit-ups. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ooh, that's a great burn. Great core workout. Make sure you guys do the core workout for 3 rotations. So just hold it for stability, 5 sit-ups. We're gonna go V's for 10, then 5 sit-ups, and then reaching over, back and forth, stretching those lats for 10, and then 5 sit-ups. 3 rounds of that. Thanks for tuning in to Virginia Medical Updates. I'm Dante Davis, and this was Fitness Session 3. You guys have been doing amazing. I want you to keep it up and keep up the hard work. Have a good one.